these are all the products that were announced by Apple on the 7th. Usually I do this presentation right after the announcement, but Apple moved up their announcements a week earlier this year. So now we're a week and a half out. I'm sure a lot of you have seen some of this, but I have details that you probably are not aware of. So they introduced 4 new phones. They did away with the mini phone. You can still get last year's model, but it was replaced by this larger phone in the regular lineup. And these are the 2 Pros over here. There are 3 new watches, including the big boy, and new AirPods. And the new AirPods they're pretty good. Haven't tried them, but they look like they're pretty good and they offer a lot. So let's get into it. I'm going to go over the watch first. And after I finish with the watch, I'll take questions on the watch. And then we'll go over the AirPods and then the phones. So here are the 3 watches. This one is 49 millimeters and it's titanium. This is the Watch 8, which is very similar to the Watch 7, same processor and everything else, but I'll tell you the couple of new features that are available. If you have a Watch 6 or 7, it probably doesn't make sense to get the 8, although I'm getting the 8 because I had already pre-sold my 7. And this is the SE, which is the same size. But it has been greatly enhanced and is a real value. So we'll start off with going over here's a comparison chart. I put this up just to show you, and I marked in yellow the things that are sort of different. So if you go down here and look at the SE, okay, here's the Series 8. It doesn't have ECG, it doesn't have the oxygen sensor, but it does have high-low heart rate indicators. It doesn't have the dust resistance, and it doesn't have the cycle tracking and temperature sensing, but it does have cycle tracking without temperature sensing. So, and of course, this column shows what the 8 has and the Ultra and the things that are sort of missing and have been added to the Ultra lineup. So we'll be going over some of those. Okay, so here is the SE lineup. And as I said, this has been greatly enhanced and is a real value for someone who does not necessarily need to take an ECG or have the oxygen sensor or the temperature sensing with cycle tracking. But it is 20% faster. It has the same chip as the iPhone 8. It does have an activity area. It does have the emergency SOS. It has fall detection. Apple Pay, 30% larger than the Series 3, which has finally been eliminated from the lineup, thank goodness. Has sleep tracking, the same as the 8. It's got the multiple workouts. And on the back, the back is now synthetic on the SE lineup, and it matches the color of the watch. So if you're getting a black watch, it's going to be black and so on. So let's go on. I just want to show the price of this and how reasonable it is. So this is a picture of the watch, one I picked off of their website. Now, I wanted to make this note clear, and this came up in one of the reviews, just happened to mention it, and I picked up on it. It does not come with the fast watch charger that attaches to the back. So if you want fast watch charging, you're going to have to buy that from another adapter from Apple to do the fast watch charging. that comes with the 8 and it comes with the Ultra. So I want to make that note. But here's the price. If you get a 44 millimeter, starts at $279. If you add cellular, it's $329. That's it. And then the Apple Care is only $49 for 2 years for this particular model. So this is really a great value, particularly if you have a child or someone who does not need those other couple of health features that I mentioned. Okay, so here is the a summary of the Series 8. It's very interesting that they have Wednesday the 7th here. I found that a little ironic because this watch is just like the 7th. It has the same processor. The only thing that they've added is they've added the temperature sensing, okay, and they've added the crash detection. And they've added international roaming, and I don't know if that'll go back. That might be a software thing that goes back to the 7 as well. I'm not sure, but that's it. I mean, it's other than that. If you have a 7, you should, or even a 6, you should be very happy with those watches. And unless you just want the latest and greatest because you want these temperature sensing elements and the crash detection. And I'll mention on the temperature sensing, there's some confusion about that. I mean, everybody thinks, well, you know, I'll just take my temperature right now. Well, you can't do that. This takes your temperature every, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes at night. And it will show if you're in your health app, if you're a male or female, but of course, if you're a female, you can do cycle tracking with that to help you with your getting lined up to get pregnant. Okay, so the other thing that they've added in the software across the line is the medication reminder. And that's a good app that's, again, across all watches. The battery life is the same as last year, and so on. And here is the Ultra. It's huge. It's 49 millimeters. And there are some added features. It's water resistant or waterproof down to 100 meters, so you can use it for diving. It has an extra button on the side that you can customize. So if it's a certain workout that you do, you can just hit that button and that workout will come up automatically. It has dual GPS rather than singular GPS, which is more accurate, particularly like if you're in cities or in the mountains. It has a night mode. And the night mode is nice because the brightness is 200 nits, and that's really bright. I mean, the Series 8 is 1,000. The iPhone 14 is 1,200. The Pro is you'll see in a minute will go up to 2,000 outside in the daytime. So this. It's got the siren. I think I mentioned that. It's got the satellite feature that also comes on the 8, and it's a titanium case, and it's very well protected. That's why this metal's out here is to protect those crowns and so on. And the crown is bigger, so you can use it with gloves. And it's definitely designed for athletes, but a lot of people are buying it because it doesn't show it on this slide, but the standard battery is rated at 36 hours. And later this fall, they'll have a low power setting. It's not out yet. That'll take it up to 60 hours. Okay, so again, here's the chart. And of the comparisons. Now, and here's the price levels, the starting price levels on the website. And again, this is somewhat misleading when you compare it to the Ultra because again, this one goes up to about, I think it was $320 or so. If you get it with the Apple Care and with and the bigger model. Um, and the 8 starts at $399. You say, well, that's, this is double the price. But if you look at the 8 and build it up, so if you look at the 8 and you get the 45 millimeter and you get GPS and cellular, you're up to $529. The Apple Care on this is $79, $49 on the SE, and it's $99 on the Ultra. So with that, I will take questions on the watch.
Right now, we do not have any questions on the watch, unless someone wants to raise their hand.
Yes.
Go ahead, Eckhart.
I'd like to say something. I bought the watch, the new one, and I'm disappointed. No surprise, because I was sort of misled regarding the body temperature. I thought it would really show the temperature, and all it does after 5 nights, it shows the deviation from the base temperature, so that's very disappointing. But I wanted to make a comment on the medication. I know that a number of people have talked about it, they recommend it, but it has one very substantial flaw at this time. Because when I used it, and I discussed the matter also with the Apple expert with whom I shared 30 minutes, as I mentioned earlier, the medication allows you to list the drugs and prescription that you take, and also you can allow the intervals at which you take them, like every day or every other day or maybe once a week. But what it does not show at this time, if you take a pill several times a day, and I have several pills that I take twice a day, and there's no way, and the Apple expert had to admit it, there's no way to indicate that on the medication app. So I believe there's a deficiency, and I'm sure Apple is going to fix it, but at this time it isn't there. Thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out, Eckert. I was not aware of that. I'm not using that feature. I have a pretty good, I take pills twice a day, once in the morning and once at night, so it's pretty easy to track mine. So I have not used the app, but thanks for pointing that out. I was unaware of that. Anybody else?
Anyone else with a question about the watch? If I see one come in, Mitch, I'll let you know. Otherwise, you can proceed.
Okay, great.
Rob, do you have a I'm sorry, Rob, do you have a question about the watch?
I may have missed this. First of all, thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Have you seen the Alta or whatever it's called and tried it on? And I don't know if you mentioned that to see how big it really is.
Yeah, no, I have not. It will be released tomorrow at the store. I'm very sorry that I did not immediately order one when they came out, because the order rate immediately went out a month or two, so they're hard to get online. I went to the store to see if they were going to get some in tomorrow. The store told me no, they wouldn't get any in. I called Apple and I asked them. The gal said, well, I'm sure they will. She put me on hold and she came back and she said, yeah, stores are going to have those. They'll have a limited supply, but they'll have them. So, but I have not tried one on. They are very big. I've looked at several reviews, preliminary reviews, because nobody has this thing yet. Although there are some reviews that just hit this morning on YouTube. If you search for it, you'll see a couple of people who have gotten these already just today, and they put out quick reviews on them. So, but it is very big. I wanted to try one, and if I didn't like it, I was going to take it back within the 14-day window.
And the other question is related to this, and is the 3 different straps. Do you have any insights on it besides what was said at the keynote?
Well, the one strap for diving, which is the sort of silicone or rubber one, I mean, it really stretches out so it can go over your dive suit or your jacket or whatever. That wouldn't be one for me. I used to dive in another life. But the other two are very good. The one I particularly liked was the trail band, only because it's very thin. But while I'm on the bands, old bands will fit on the Ultra watch. So if you have a supply of old bands, they will work on the new watch. But I haven't not seen those bands. They did not have them on display at the store yesterday. They'll have them tomorrow, I'm sure. But sorry, I can't give you more information on that.
Thank you. Charles Anthony, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Hi, yes, thank you. If you get on any of these watches, the options of the GPS or GPS plus cellular, does the cell provider also charge additional monthly charge, or is it just that one time additional $100?
No, it's I know AT&T charges $10 a month extra. Somebody else might want to weigh in, but I think that's the going rate in the United States is $10 a month extra for the cellular.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Now,
Go ahead, Mitch.
and I should mention that it's only if you turn it on. So if you get the GPS plus cellular and you decide, I'm not going to turn that on right now, it doesn't start until you turn it on. Okay, so I'll move on, Sheeta.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So let's talk about the AirPod Pro 2 lineup. And they have added a new size, an extra small. Apparently there was a big demand for people with smaller ear openings. And so they've added that, which is nice for those people. It looks to be, I have not seen one in person, but it looks to be the same size as the AirPod Pro, the existing one, the old one. And it has an H2 chip, which enhances a lot of different things that we'll see. This next slide, I think, is the one that makes you a little dizzy. No, not this one. Okay, the other nice thing is on the stem. Now you can move your finger up and down and it will increase or decrease the volume. And this is something that has been requested by people for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see how well that works and how people like it. And then this is the case. The case has been enhanced significantly. There's room for a strap right here, and it has a speaker right here. And the reason it has a speaker is if you misplace your case in the house, you'll be able to do the Find My, and it will make a loud noise, and you'll be able to find it. Also, it will take the watch charger on the bottom, as well as any other charger that you can lay it down on. And as far as I know, this is the only case that it comes in. There's no case without the bottom charging elements. Okay, and here's the dizzy slide. So here's the lanyard loop that I believe it comes with. That's what the website says. It's got precise finding. Here's the touch control for the volume. It's the extra size. It has the conventional ear boost. It has the precision spatial audio, and the last version of the Pros had that too. I think it must have been in a software update, but I know I went on mine and went through that exercise the other day. It has 2 times more active noise cancellation, which is great. 48 megahertz audio for shared play. It's got that new chip. The hours here are a little bit higher. I think the play time's a couple hours higher, and the charge time's a little bit higher as well. You can get, oh, this is the big selling point. You can get your emoji engraved when you order these. And that's, I mean, you got to have that. Here's the watch charger capability, the in-case speaker. And so there are a lot of features with this new AirPods 2 or AirPods Pro 2, and they kept the price the same as the old AirPods Pro on introduction, $259 or $249 for the second generation. You can still get the first generation. I don't know if you can still get it on the Apple site. You might be able to until they run out of inventory, but you can probably get it at some vendors who have inventory. But this is really a great addition. I want to get one, but it's just like my AirPods Pro now works fine, and I hate to spend $250 for those added features. So I'm on the fence on getting one of these. But now I'll take any questions on this that people might have.
Marcia, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, I just wanted to know, do they come with these silicone tips?
Yes, they come with the 4 tips. Oh,
okay. I wasn't sure because I was looking at it and nowhere did it say that on the Apple website.
If you go down, if you're on there and you hit order one, there's a place that says what's in the box or what it comes with, and it comes with the tips.
All right, thank you very much, Mitch.
Okay.
And these will be available at the Apple store tomorrow.
Okay.
And they will have a large supply.
All right, Alan, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you. How do you know which size fits your ear best?
You try them out.
But I mean,
you
have to go to the store and try out the different sizes.
No. It comes with all 4 sizes when you buy them. So you just try it out.
Oh, okay. You get all 4 sizes and you just use the size you want.
Yes, exactly, Alan.
Okay, thank you.
Well, actually,
Mitch, yeah.
Actually, what happens is that when you try the different sizes, you do an ear test, and it will determine for you whether or not your tips are giving you the correct suction or coverage. And so then you can go and change and try the others. Some will also fall out of your ear, which either means you need a smaller or a bigger ear tip. So you get all 4 so that you can try them out.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I'd forgotten about that test you can do. It's been a long time since I've done that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is it just came through, I think yesterday, where Amazon is already discounting these by $10.
Okay, good. Okay, Michael, I believe you have a question.
Yes, hello. Can you?
Hi, Michael.
Good morning. Can you use these one at a time, or do they have to be used in pair?
You can use them one at a time. I use mine one at a time all the time.
Thank you.
Or a lot at a time.
All right, thank you, Michael. Melissa, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you. Yes, Mitch, how long do the AirPods last? Let's say I don't lose it, but I just, recharge it every day, use it regularly. Is it going to last a couple of years or more?
I would say a couple years. I had mine. I use mine every day, and I've had this set for over a year. But somebody else might want to weigh in on that. Sheeta?
What was the question? I'm sorry, I was in the chat.
How long they last? Do they last a couple years or longer?
The AirPods themselves?
Yes, if you use them every
For-
day.
Well, I had a first generation pair, and they stone cold just stopped working maybe last year. They won't even charge. They're there. But so when did AirPods first come out? And when do you remember when they first came out?
Oh, it's been 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, right. So
least.
I would say 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I would
that's
agree with
yeah,
that.
and
I
yeah,
would
and that's
agree.
for the first generation. So with the ones that we have now, they're new and improved, and the battery life is probably better. But still, give it 4 or 5 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Melissa.
Thank you, Sheila.
You're welcome, Mitch. Stephen Ramirez, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Stephen, you're up. Okay, Stephen,
Okay.
there you go.
Yeah, I can tell you real quick. I've had the AirPod Pro Generation 1 since November of 2019. No issues. I use them every day.
Great, wonderful.
And
Okay.
I might real quick, if I can interject real quick, that's
Sure.
the new improvement of sliding the volume up and down. I called Apple Care to verify that adjustment of volume will also adjust your Apple TV volume. So you don't need to go to the remote to increase the volume if you're watching it with Apple TV, using them with Apple TV, which I do. I use my AirPods for watching television.
Mhm.
I'll be able to adjust the volume from the stem of the AirPod itself, which would be convenient.
Very. I'm
Great
looking
to
forward
know.
that as
Thank you.
well. Yeah. Wonderful. All right, Mitch, all yours.
Okay, so let's go on to the phones. As I mentioned, there have been 4 phones that were introduced. Here are the 14 and the 14 Plus. The 14 Plus, they've added to the lineup. It's new this year. It's not going to be released until I think the first week of October, whereas the other ones were all released last Friday. The other thing I wanted to note is that the eSIM is there's an eSIM only in all US 14s models. So it's 14S, that was just meant plural. All 14 models in the United States are sold with an eSIM only. You cannot get a SIM card. There is no SIM tray. And this has been a little controversial for people who travel around the world. And I don't know, Eckert, you might want to chime in on this, on what you're doing and any comments you have, because I know you're a world traveler.
Yes, thank you, Mitch. I've always had 2 SIM cards in my phone when it was possible. I have a contract with AT&T, and because I travel to Germany frequently, I have a contract also with a German company called Vodafone. And right now, the way my phone, my 13 iPhone is set up, my eSIM is for AT&T, and in the SIM tray, there's a physical card for the German carrier. I talked with AT&T about that, and they said that I could get, of course, a phone in Canada. In Canada, they still supply the new phone 14 with a SIM tray. But if I don't want to do it, I should contact Vodafone, and all larger carriers. They have really rushed their own eSIMs very recently in a very strong fashion. I did contact Vodafone just a couple of days ago, and they told me that they will, if I get an iPhone 14, they will help me in setting it up remotely. I thought I would have to travel to Germany before I can and buy the iPhone only before I take my next trip to Germany. So I'm ready. but Vodafone told me they want to support Apple. They want to support the new phone without an eSIM tray, and so they're going to help me. However, there is still one problem. If people travel, let's say overseas, and they want to just buy a SIM card, they want to have a phone connection for just a few weeks while they are tourists somewhere. If you use your American contract and you make phone calls in Europe or in South Africa and Asia, you really pay astronomical fees for using your phone over there to make phone calls and use SMS and so forth and go back to the United States. So if you want to have a prepaid SIM card over there, that would be very helpful. With the new iPhone 14, that unfortunately is not possible. And I don't think when you arrive at an airport somewhere in Asia and you go to a kiosk there, I don't believe they can install an eSIM card quickly on your iPhone. They're not equipped for that. They would only have the physical SIM cards. So it's a problem, but I believe it's a problem, but it's only there for a little while because the rest of the world will rush to accommodate the new iPhone. And so I believe while I personally have a problem right now, it will go away. And I understand because the advantages of using eSIMs is fantastic. You can have a number of eSIM cards installed on your phone. You can only use 2 at a time, but you can then easily switch from one carrier to another, to a third, and to a fourth. So I welcome the idea. I welcome the adaptation of new ideas, new concepts. There is a little bit of a problem for the time being for those people who travel a lot internationally, but I think that problem will go away. That's my comment, Mitch.
Okay, yes, and I understand that the eSIM is much more secure than a SIM card too. Okay, so any other comments on that?
Don Peacock, you have your hand up. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, if you have T-Mobile, you just travel to Europe and you don't need to do anything, is what I've been told by a close friend. It works.
Yeah, I
over
was gonna say that also. But
Deutsche Telekom. So it just works over there, and you go to another country and it says, welcome to the country, just like when you go to Canada, you get a notification.
Oh, that's good to know for T-Mobile people.
Good. All right, Lawrence Jenkins, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
I was just going to agree with that. T-Mobile is largely owned by Vodafone, and Vodafone, as I travel around to different countries, is that's why it's real compatible with T-Mobile, because they're actually one and the same almost.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, Mitch, all yours.
Okay, so here are the key features on the phone, and I'm not going to go over these right now because I have other slides that will show this, but we will go over those. Here's the color lineup. And here's all the goodies. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you about the iPhone 14, the one we're looking at right here, it is basically the same as the 13 with a few exceptions. It has crash detection. It has an action mode, which allows you to take videos when you're in the action mode. When someone is moving, running down the street, it acts like a gimbal and takes out all the shakiness in the camera, and it works pretty good, although it does degrade the quality somewhat in what I've seen on some demos. I couldn't tell how it degraded it, but they said it did. It does have a new 12 megahertz main camera. It has a front or megapixel, I'm sorry. Thank you. It has a autofocus on the selfie camera, a brighter flash, and it has the emergency SOS and the I mentioned crash detection. The crash detection and emergency SOS are on all the phones, as is the action mode. But if it has the same chip as last year's phone, and so there's not much difference. I mean, they just rewrapped the phone, and it probably should have been a 13S rather than a 14, because there's not much, like I said, they just added a few things inside and enhanced the camera a little bit. So, whoops. Okay, here's the emergency SOS. I got a couple slides on that, and that's a really nice feature for people who are out of cellular territory. And you think, well, most of us that wouldn't probably happen to. We're an older crowd in general, but you know, like in Florida, you could have a hurricane and be without cellular service real easily. So this would allow you to communicate with the satellite. It's just for emergencies, and so here's the emergency text to the satellite, and here's how you would locate the satellite. You point the phone towards the sky, and it lights up when you are in connection with a satellite, and you have to hold it there while you're doing anything. And you see it says open messages, and when you open the messages, there are standard messages to send. They have to keep this very simple, sweet, and to the point, and it might take a minute or two or three for you to get a response, or for this to go up there, depending on cloud cover, if there's trees and so on. But this is a real welcome feature, and I think over time you're going to just see more and more of this. So the next is crash detection. Hope nobody has to ever use this. It will detect crash detection, front end, side, rear end, and rollover. There's the rollover slide. That looks nasty to me. And it looks like you had a crash. If you don't respond, they're automatically going to call emergency services, which is really nice. And this same feature is on the watch. So the watch will detect if you had a crash as well. Okay.
Do you know
Again,
what some of the what some of the differences are in how it detects a crash from a fall?
No, I do not. I just know that it does, and it has to do with the sensors that are built in the watch. I mean, it detects when it's when it's more than just a fall.
Great. Okay.
Sorry, I can't provide more input on that.
No, I agree. That actually was a question in the chat, and I agree with you, because I do believe that when they do a fall detection, there are several metrics that it looks at, and one is the G-force, and one is the amount of gyro, how much gyro turns. So I'm sure that there are some distinct differences in what it's doing. Okay, James Corsica, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, Mitch.
Hi, Jim.
I'm just curious about these new features. Do any of them wind up in our older phones? I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max. Do any of these features wind up with software updates, or are they native to just the phone itself?
Okay, these are new, and these are native to the phone itself. This crash detection, action mode, the brighter flash, the enhancements to the camera, the autofocus. Those are not going to be in your last year's phone. Everything else will be in last year's phone.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, Michael, can you ask your question?
Yes, that on that crash detection, they set the G-force higher than anything that humans could do to themselves. A big crash should be maybe 200 Gs. So they set it maybe at 50 Gs or 20. If you fell off the roof of your house, that would only be maybe 4 or 5 Gs. So they set it high enough that they know it's really, really a crash. And that's pretty easy. That detector is set very high for, serious crashes.
Right. Great. Thank you,
Great.
Michael.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that input. Okay, Mitch, all yours.
All right, let's move on to the Pro line. And here are the two Pro models. The camera is much bigger than last year, and it does stick out. I actually have one. I have this one right here. And this was the real surprise in the whole presentation is the pill. I mean, they made the pill smaller, and it's like, there's a pill. It's sort of a boring thing. But then they turned that into something spectacular, and we'll see that as we go forward. So they turned it into the dynamic island, which it does a lot of things, and I've got some slides to show that. But it is really very Apple-like, and it's very, it's just like taking something that would be very boring and making a lot of use out of it. And I think it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to like quite a bit. Okay, so again, you have the emergency SOS on this phone, just like the last one, crash detection. This ceramic shield is their fancy name for their glass on the front of the phone. It's on all 4 phones. It's supposed to be the strongest Gorilla, glass and so on. This one does come with a new chip. The 14 does not. The 14 Pro line has the A16 Bionic chip, which gives it some more efficiency and a little faster speed. It has ProMotion, which we'll talk about in a minute. It has the action mode, which I mentioned is when you take videos and you're in action mode, it acts like a gimbal and it takes out the vibration. And that's gotten some good reviews. Camera, I'm going to go over in just a few minutes. They've added a zoom. You have 4 zooms now. You have the half, 1, 2, and 3. This sort of slipped by me, and I actually found this out this morning. I mean, I review this more stuff every day, but the one zoom, which is the default, is the only one that takes a 48 megapixel photo. So you get 12 megapixels on the 14. On the 14 Pro, the main lens, which is the number 1, is used to do the number 1, will do up to 48 megapixels on the main lens. The other 2, 12. So if you're on 2x or 3x, you're on these 2 lenses, one of these 2 lenses, and it's a 12 megapixel photo. Okay, then this protonic engine is their fancy term for the mechanics and the software that enhance the images. Okay, so you now have cinematic 4K 24 for video. I mentioned that they're now up to 16 nits of brightness standard, and outside up to 2000, and that's a great addition. The 12 or the iPhone 14, the regular one, is 1200 nits. You have an always-on display. And I did find out, I turned mine off. I liked it, but I found out in doing a lot of reviews that this will eat up about 1% of your battery per hour. And this thing, I noticed my battery going down, and there were a couple. The other thing that they've added this year in the software is haptic touch that you can turn on, and so that when you're working the keyboard, it's got a haptic feel to it. I just found out this morning that also eats battery life, so I turned that off. I never did care for it anyhow, but for right now, I turned the always on display off because it was just it was one thing that was eating the battery life, and I turned off the haptic touch this morning, and I'm going to see what happens. I did like this, but the battery life's going to have to improve before I turn it back on, and it might, just with software enhancements that they usually refine that as things go on. So again, here's again the always on display, the nits, broad brightness, the ProMotion, the dynamic island, which we're going to go over. This LTPO, I forget what that acronym stands for, but that's their technology that allows the always on display to go from 1 megahertz up to 120 when it's goes to 1 megahertz when it's on the always on and it's not being used, and it goes to 120 when it's on, and you're using it for heavy duty things. That's this technology, and they've been using that on the watch for the last year or two, and they've been using it on Android phones for some time. Okay, so let's move on, and I want to talk about the camera. So here's the main camera. It's 48 megahertz, and these are the statistics. I'm not going to go dwell on those, but this is significant. The sensor is 65% larger, and that is really a huge increase, and does a lot to increase the image quality. Okay, this is the wide angle, and it is also enhanced in a bigger lens. And then for low light, the flash has also been enhanced quite a bit on this in comparison to the 14. But they really focused in on how well this thing does in low light conditions. So 2x better, true depth, low light on the front facing camera, 2 better on the telephoto, 3 better on low light ultra wide, and 2 better on the main camera. Now, let's talk about these 48 megapixels on the main lens. This is a graph of that. These are the 48, and you notice that there's 4 big ones in the middle, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I wanted to put this note in because this came up in a couple of videos that I reviewed. The raw photos take up to 3 times more storage this year than last year because of the 48 megapixels. If you're shooting in that number 1 only, not the magnification 2 or 3, just the 1, it'll be in 48 megapixels on an outdoor picture. And I took one today, and it was 98 megapixels or 98. Yeah, and that's huge. So I don't shoot raw at all. I know some people are out there cringing when I say that, but I just don't. But I know a lot of people, a lot of professional people do. A lot of people who work a lot with photos. So getting back to these, what this represents is in low light conditions, what they do with their software is they'll take 4 images and combine them into one of that particular item to enhance the low light quality of the image. So you can end up with a 12 megahertz, picture when you're in low light conditions, and that's how they do it with their with the software. Okay. Okay, let's talk about this dynamic island, which again was the big. Go ahead.
Can we pause for a second? Don, you had a
Sure.
question? Don Peacock?
Yeah. Yes, hi. Maybe it's for Mike Kwasniak, if you're here. If I am taking a picture of something that's very important but far away, would it be better to use the 3 times zoom or to take the regular one and crop it?
Oh, that's complicated.
I don't know.
The huge advantage of a 48 megapixel image is, of course, that you can crop like crazy. I mean, the professional cameras that I work with daily are only 12, and they're perfectly fine, but I do very little cropping. I'm tempted to say probably I'd use the standard lens and crop the huge image, but I wouldn't stake my life on it.
I'll let
I can
get my phone next month.
If I could add to that, using a digital zoom will not give you it'll give you a picture. It will not give you the best quality picture. Mike, do you agree with that?
100%, yes.
All right. So I would use, as Mike suggested, I would use the standard camera and enlarge the image as opposed to using the digital zoom.
Thank you both.
Okay, now I'm actually working on getting Mike some pictures, and I took 3 pictures. I took one with the one zoom, one with the 2, and one with the 3 of the same scene. And the one with the 1 again was 98 megahertz, and then the one with the 2 and 3 were both like 35. They were really reduced because they're 12 as opposed to 48. Okay.
Reduced what in size?
In
Physical
size,
size?
yes.
Okay.
Physical size. Yeah,
All right.
because you're going from 48 down to 12.
Right, but are you more concerned with quality or size?
Well, no, I'm just saying that this
Okay.
confirms what you guys have said.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Ed Ames, you have a question related to what we're talking about right now? Ed Adams, I'm sorry. Ed Ames was an actor. Okay. Ed Adams? If you're speaking, we cannot hear you or see that you're speaking. All right, Mitch, go ahead. If you can, put your question in the chat. Please do not unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about this dynamic island, which was the real big surprise at the Apple event. And again, here's the pill, which is very boring. And what they did is they really figured out how to use that in a neat way. So here it is when you're talking on the phone. It automatically expands. It shows the voice here, and it shows how many minutes you're talking, and it shows the picture of the phone. Here it is when you get a call. Okay, shows the person and accept the call or decline. And here it is when you connect your AirPods. Okay, shows the battery. Now, if you touch on it, you just have to tap. If you hit it hard, it'll take you to the app. But if you just tap on it, it gives you more information and expands even more. And it says, oh, here's the name on your AirPods, and here is the percent of battery for those AirPods. This is really neat stuff. I think it is anyhow. Here's one with a map. And again, if you just lightly touch on it, don't hit hard because it'll take you to the map app. If you just lightly touch on it, it's going to give you a little bit more information. Okay.
Okay.
I think I got one more of these. Now this gal is on some music. And you can see, this is the music artwork right here, and here's the sound. And she's going to lightly touch on that. And when she does, whoops, come on. When she does, it opens up again and gives you more controls, more artwork, and so on. So I think this is a really neat feature. I've used it a little bit, and and they've made this available to third-party apps. So a lot of third-party apps, I'm sure, are going to jump on this because they're going to want their app to have this capability to show up in the dynamic island. Okay, and now I want to just quickly go over pricing. They held the pricing the same, which was another big surprise, and it was really smart on Apple's part to do this for a lot of different reasons. I mean, inflation's going crazy. A lot of people don't have a lot of money to spend on these things. This feeds a lot of their ecosystem, and so they did not raise the price, and everybody thought they would raise the price by $100 on the Pro line, and they did not. I'm glad they didn't. So these are the base prices, and for the 14 series, if you go up to the next level, so if you go to 256, these all go up $100. So like the 14 Pro, this is at 128. If you go to 256, it becomes $11.99. A lot of carriers are offering special deals this year on these that really bring the price down. And I know a lot of people have taken advantage of that. Any questions on that?
Any questions on the iPhones?
I'm going to get one more slide in here.
Okay.
Okay, yes, that's the end of the presentation. And so we can open it up to questions.
Okay, so I have a response and 2 questions. Ed, get ready. Michael, get ready. Don, and also in response to your question about taking pictures, I would take that shot in RAW. Then you'll have all of the data with that image. If you take it in JPEG, JPEG is going to throw away some of that data. And when you enlarge your picture, it will not be as, there will not be as much information, data, pixels, than if you shot with RAW. So shoot it in RAW. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, Michael, you are next. Michael, you had a question.
Yes, the basic iPhone 14 versus the Pro, just for picture taking, for a person, I already ordered the 14 Pro, but I have friends that I'm trying to talk into getting the straight 14, and if they took snapshots, they didn't need telephoto and all that, just family snapshots. How would the 14 camera be versus the 14 Pro camera for snapshots? Would they be pretty close?
Yeah, I think they would be pretty close. I mean, I don't know. Somebody else might want to weigh in on that. I got the Pro last year. My wife got the regular, and I didn't notice any difference in her pictures.
Go ahead.
Can I stick an oar in?
Yes.
Yes.
Just to repeat what I said a short while ago. I've been shooting 12 with a 12 megapixel camera forever. 48 megs is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. But I think that I honestly believe that 12 is perfectly adequate. Just in case anyone's interested, forgive me for doing a bit of advertising, but next month, and I think it might be the meeting on the 19th, I will spend the meeting talking about raw photography on the iPhone, which might be useful.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
One more comment on that. You can only take RAW, I believe, on the Pro line. You can't take RAW on this one, on the regular 14. I'm pretty sure of that.
Mitch, there are apps available that do permit it, but it's
okay.
so it's not Apple Pro RAW.
Okay, it's not Apple Pro Raw, but you can get an app that'll do it. Okay.
Absolutely. All right, wonderful. Okay, Ed Adams, is your microphone working now? Ed, your hand's up. I see your microphone. It's unmuted, but I don't hear you. Are you speaking? Okay, you will have to put your question in the chat because I do not see that your microphone is working. We're going to move on. John Scudder, can you please ask your question?
Yes, is the emergency satellite messaging a separate application or is it included in the messaging platform? Can you explain that a little bit further and how you would access that? Thank you.
It's a separate application, but it's built into the phone. I mean, it's nothing you download or anything else. And I've not tried it out, but as I understand it, when you point the phone, I don't know if it automatically comes on if you're out of cellular service automatically when you hit SOS. That's not quite clear to me, but I know that when you point to the satellite and you hit that message area, you're automatically in the satellite mode there. But I've not seen much on that, and I've not seen it demonstrated in a video yet, other than on the Apple site.
All right, thank you, John. Michael Tulper, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure. Hi. Yeah, I was wondering if there's a particular site that you might know about that we could visit from time to time to see who's actually offering some of the best deals, like through T-Mobile. I got to upgrade to the 14 Pro. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I think if you're with T-Mobile, the best thing to do is to call T-Mobile or to get on Google and or whatever your search engine is, and search for T-Mobile deals on 14 Pro, and it'll come up. I mean, they've got some great deals out there, and same thing for the other carriers. But that's the way to do it. There's no one site that I know of that lays it all out.
Okay, great. I'm going to shoot you through these questions because we got a lot of hands. Lawrence Jenkins, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
I was going to buy the Series 8 Gold, which is $799 if you get the 45, and it's the same. And so I ordered the Ultra instead because it was pretty much the same price. And it's going to be there on Friday.
Oh, that's great. I think that's a wise choice, because if you get the standard 8 model in stainless steel, it's the same. It's virtually the same price as the Ultra. So as long as you can handle that bigger size screen on your wrist, I think you made a wise decision. If you don't like it, call me, because I'll buy it from
you. Wonderful. Okay, Archer Yates, you have a question.
Yes, I purchased the AirTags, the 4-pack of the AirTags, and I pulled a little plastic shield out so it would activate it. And then I was testing it in my house. So I've got a iPhone 13 Pro, and I go to Find My, and so I'm testing it, and it's not picking up the signal of the AirTag until I get within 15 feet of it. And so I'm wondering what's going on. Is it maybe I've got an old box? I bought it at the Apple store at Flatiron Crossing here in Broomfield, Colorado. What has anybody else had experiences with trying to use the AirTag? What is the distance that it will actually give a signal?
I'm not sure. 15 foot doesn't sound. I would think 30 foot for Bluetooth.
Yeah, 30 to 50 feet. would be expected. So you might want to go to the Apple Store and talk to them about that, and maybe they can help you with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I've got an Airport Extreme.
Mhm.
So it's and it gets a good signal even down on our lower decks.
Right, and so that works with Bluetooth, not with Wi-Fi. So that again, take it to the Apple Store. I got to zoom through these
Thank you.
questions. Okay, Alan, unmute yourself and ask your question. Cannot hear you, Alan. Are you speaking? All right, we can't hear Alan. Ed Adams, your microphone is still unmuted. Do you have a question? Is your microphone working? Okay, I cannot hear you. Okay. Stephen Ramirez, unmute yourself, ask your question.
This is not a question so much as a quick comment. The
Okay.
feature that has blown me away, and I think it'll be very useful for the group in future presentation, mirroring of Apple Watch to your phone screen. It works absolutely phenomenally.
Oh, trust me, we will take full advantage of that. Thank you, Stephen. All right. Okay, Alan, your hand is up. Is your microphone working now? Unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. You need to speak up. You're very low.
Okay, on that dynamic window, can you go from one app to another by moving your finger across the window from left to right, or how does it decide which app to tell you about?
Okay, it's a good question. It'll handle up to 2 apps. So in the demonstration that they gave, I believe in the Apple presentation, and I've seen in some videos, is, for example, if you're on a call or you're listening to music, and then all of a sudden you set up a timer. The timer will show as a smaller icon in the dynamic window, but that's all, just 2. And if you opened up a third one, I haven't seen anybody ask that question or address that issue. But I know it'll handle 2. And you don't putting your finger on it and moving back and forth, I don't think does anything.
Okay, so my question really, again, I'm a little confused. How does it know which app to tell you about? I mean, if I have 10 or 15 apps, how does it choose which app to tell me about?
Well, first of all, right now it's only working with Apple apps. So like the phone or notes or music. It's available to third parties, but the third parties are going to have to develop the software to use it. But it knows, I mean, if you turn on the phone and all of a sudden you get a phone call, it knows to just put it up there.
Right.
That makes sense?
Makes sense. Interesting question. Irene, please unmute yourself and make your comment. Irene, are you here? Irene has said, I understand the satellite connection is free for the first 2 years only. Is that something you've heard, Mitch?
Yes, it's available free for the first 2 years, and a lot of people have speculated as to what it might cost after 2 years. I have no idea. Some people have said, $10 to $30 a month. Who knows what it's going to be? And it could be that they'll, between now and then, the satellite stuff gets cheaper maybe, and maybe it'll be a free feature going forward. But it is free if you have a new 14 for the first 2 years.
Okay.
So if you're going to get lost and need to use this feature, do it in the next 2 years.
All right. If you're going to be lost in the mountains, if you're going to, okay, that's wonderful. All right. We have one question. We have time for one question, one short question. Anyone want to volunteer for that one short question? Okay. Well, I see no volunteers. In that case, Mitch, is there anything else you'd like to add about what you've covered? Thank you for the excellent presentation.
No, I just think if you're buying a phone and you can afford it, I would definitely go for the Pro. It's got a lot more features for $200 more. The watch, the 8 is basically the same as the 7 and the 6, except for those added a couple features, but it's the same chipset, same battery life. So if you've got a 6 or 7, no real urgent need to upgrade. I think that Ultra line, even if you're not using it for heavy duty sports, a lot of people are buying that just for the added battery life and bigger screen and brighter screen. So, and the other watch, the SE, has been enhanced so much that it's a great watch to get for a kid or even for somebody. I mean, it's got fall protection, so you could get it for an elderly adult that doesn't need some of the other health features. And that's all I have.
All right, wonderful. All right, thank you, Mitch.